Sometimes you just need a break, whether it's to manage a busy season with your kids, to focus on client work, or simply to protect your mental capacity. Stepping away from the microphone is a requirement for long-term stability. The fear of losing hard-earned listeners, however, may keep some of you from actually taking that step. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you exactly how to plan a strategic podcast sabbatical that protects your energy while keeping your audience fully engaged while you take a break. Welcome to Podcasting Unlocked, the show for purpose-driven podcasters. I'm Alicia Galati, founder of Galati Media, and I'm here to share actionable strategies to help you amplify your message and grow your audience. Hey friends, it's Alicia. I'm so glad you're here today. This one hits a little more close to home because I am feeling this right now. I am in the thick of very close to burnout, but I love round numbers, so I'm going to get through to 300. And also considering you might be feeling the exact same feelings. And maybe you don't want to stop your podcast entirely, but you need a stinking break. How can we make sure that we get that strategically set up for you without making it feel like you are just throwing your podcast away? Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is consistency. You've probably heard the phrase, content is king and consistency is queen. Well, you know my little take on that is your capacity is the key to both of those. So often we have this pressure that we have to show up constantly, that every single piece of information that we are putting out into the universe is brand new and exciting or interesting or simply created recently. And that's not actually what we have to do. Even if you look at content creators who go on maternity leave, a lot of those folks are batching their content far enough ahead so that way they can still keep showing up while taking that step away. A sabbatical is going to be very similar. So the first thing you want to do when you're creating a strategic sabbatical is to start with how long you realistically need. And I say realistically need because I'm someone that will say, oh, I'll just take a week off and I'll be fine. Usually I need more than a week. And so what does an actual sabbatical look like for you? Is that a month? Is that 3 months? Is it 6 months? You get to decide what that looks like. So first going into what is that sabbatical realistically look like for me and what do I need? Next, going into planning it. What time of year do I want this sabbatical to be? We don't want you to get to the point where you need this break tomorrow. You want to be able to have a plan ahead of time. So even if it's 3 weeks out or if it's 2 months out, then that at least gives you space right now to batch ahead or to create a strategic plan. So when do you want that to start? Next, going into communicating what exactly that might look like. Communicating that pause with your audience. Let your audience know that you're taking a break. Sometimes that might look like simply having a pre-roll at the beginning of your podcast that says, hey friends, we are on a break right now. We are not releasing new episodes. You can expect me back at this date. Right? If you want to have a full official break from your podcast where you're not releasing new episodes, your audience isn't getting new information from you, again, you get to decide what that looks like. But you can say, all right, I'm going to have this pre-roll at the beginning that says, I'm taking this break. Here are the episodes you should go back and listen to. Here's what I'm thinking about. I've created playlists for you, whatever that kind of strategy looks like. In that, you want to make sure that you're giving your audience an exact deadline of when you can be expected to come back. I do this on my other podcast, We Read Smut. I take seasonal breaks. So I do 5 months on, 1 month off, 5 months on, 1 month off. And in that last episode, it's always a solo episode. I let folks know, hey, this is what's happening. Here's what to expect. We are on a break. And you can go back and listen to past episodes. And here's when I'll be back. Now that I'm thinking about it, it probably would have been a good idea to have a pre-roll in my season break saying, hey, we'll be back on July 3rd, which is today, the day that I'm recording this. We'll be back on July 3rd, and you can make sure that you listen to past episodes. Here are some of my favorites. Be sure to go back and listen to those to help you find some new authors or some new content that you can read. And then that will help with letting people know, no matter where they're listening in your catalog, to know exactly when that new episode will be dropping for your new season. The same can go for that sabbatical. Another idea is that maybe you want to fill this space with replays, compilations, feed drops, or anything like that. So to kind of go through some of those examples, a compilation episode is where you take a collection of past episodes and you take 3 to 5 minute clips from each one, compile it together. Usually there's a theme. I would recommend there be a theme. Usually there's a theme. And you can have some type of script that you are vocally saying in between each of those segments to kind of lead people and transition people from one segment to the next on some overarching topic. You will see an episode, the next episode after this one is a compilation episode. So that's a great example if you're trying to get a better idea of what that looks like. So you could have compilation episodes going live. You could have direct replays. Maybe that is you have a new setup for that episode, but you're simply just copying and pasting pretty much what you said in the first one and having that audio or video playing in this new release. A feed drop is where you have an episode from another podcast getting dropped into your audience's feed. So it is on your podcast. So for example, after I take about a month break from this show, I want to use this space to amplify other podcasters. What are they doing? What kind of exciting things are they exploring? What are the topics that are really impacting them? And introduce you guys to some incredible podcasters that I've met over the last 9 years that I've been podcasting. So what I'm going to be doing is taking their whatever episode that we agree makes the most sense for my audience and highlights their expertise or their podcast in the best way. I will record a quick little setup, and then we will kind of mesh those together, my setup, my intro, and then here is that podcast episode from that other podcast, and then end it with my typical outro. And what this does is it allows my audience to get exposure to new podcasts. It will allow your audience to get exposure to another podcast. If you are part of a podcast network or you are part of the Feminist Podcasters Collective, that's the community that I'm part of, that I really enjoy being in that space. And I'm excited to grab some feeds from that community to have my feed drop. So you'll be able to see those coming in September and October. So that is a feed drop. You might want to do a mini feed drop, which is just releasing the trailer of another podcast, just showcasing, hey, this is what they're about. Here's this information. Another option that we didn't discuss, but I think is definitely a great one, is like a feed drop, but instead of highlighting just that podcast, you go and look at all of the podcasts that you've been a guest on in the last year, 2 years, 3 years, whichever ones are most relevant to your current expertise. And ask them if you can have the original video or audio or finalized audio or video from their podcast episode where you are being interviewed as the guest. Then you can add in a quick setup, let people know what to expect, and then it rolls right into their content. That is a great way to continue to showcase your expertise without having to create something brand new or re-record a conversation from a one-sided point of view. Instead, just be able to still showcase that person's podcast while still showcasing your expertise as well. So those are a few different ways that you can do that. I think that what that does is it allows your listeners to feel like you haven't forgotten them, like you're still showing up for them. They have something to listen to every Wednesday or Monday or whenever you release episodes. And that can really help with keeping the momentum going. So when you come back, you're not starting from a lower place of less listeners because maybe people unsubscribed or forgot about your podcast because you haven't released anything in that time. Let's talk about setting some clear calendar boundaries while you are on your sabbatical. Your sabbatical is not going to be a time to take pitch meetings, to outline episodes, to manage guest logistics in the background. None of that. Truly take a step back from your podcast. Maybe you write down some ideas. I'm not saying don't think about it at all, but give yourself some space to explore what is it that you want to create next. I think so often, especially as business owners, we push ourselves to keep showing up, to keep talking about the same thing over and over again, even if we're sick of it, even if we're burnt out. And honestly, I think it can lead to us feeling like our business is a chore when it historically has never felt like that for us. And so while you're on the sabbatical, truly take that break, block off your calendar if you need to, and use that time for what you really want it for. Whether that is high level business strategy, maybe you want to catch up on some reading, or maybe you just want to be fully present with your family without all of the other things that are pulling your attention and your time. So to recap, if you are deciding to take a sabbatical, one, I'd love to hear about it, but make sure that you set that clear timeline for yourself and your audience. Communicate what that break is actually going to look like for them. Automate as much as you can if that's having somebody else do the work to compile those episodes or to reach out to people that you've been a guest on their podcast. Whatever you need to do that makes the most sense for your calendar to be able to batch these ahead in a strategic and streamlined way. Add in that pre-roll to let people know that things are changing, whatever that might look like for you. And then also make sure that you are setting those strict boundaries with your calendar. We want this to be a true sabbatical for you. So let's make it happen. So your challenge is to open your calendar right now, and I want you to look at the next 6 months. And I want you to block out a minimum of 2 weeks for a dedicated podcast pause. And again, that's not that you don't have to release episodes during that time. You can batch ahead. You can actually take a pause. You can do re-releases, a compilation. You get to decide what that looks like for you. But give yourself those 2 weeks, please. Especially if you're someone who is releasing on a weekly basis and you do not take seasonal breaks and you do not give yourself that space or have not given yourself that space at all, let's go ahead and do that. And if you would like more help around trying to create a strategic sabbatical plan, or even just you're about going on maternity leave and you want to have a better idea of what that strategy might look like for you, or you need support with helping you with your podcast, you can go to helpmypod.com. Let's chat. I'm happy to just hop on a call, figure out if working with us makes the most sense, give you any insight I might have, and get you on your way. All right. Until next time, happy podcasting.